agreed to buy her a chemistry set so they could perform some tests. Now she busied herself wedging test tubes into the sand and filling them up. While she squeezed droplets into the tubes, Alex gazed out across the bay. The shifting waves smouldered under the broad disk of the setting sun. An unruly formation of seabirds was making its raucous return to roosts in the nearby cliffs. It would have been beautiful, were it not for the litter that smothered the water. Carrier bags and plastic bottles, tins and crisp packets, yogurt pots and cotton buds formed floating bands of filth. Oil glistened on the surface of the waves. The lapping water left a shifting black tide line of gunk along the beach. Barely a year had passed since Mayor Humbertus Parch took control of Haven Bay and approved construction of a mysterious facility known as the Station. The grey concrete building perched on the water's edge like an unsightly barnacle. Apart from the arrival or departure of the occasional boat, nobody was ever seen going in or out. Security guards in black uniforms stood watch outside every hour of the day. The mayor claimed the station monitored water quality, but shortly after it was built, the water turned foul and tourists stopped showing up. It couldn't be a coincidence. In the pub, cafe and chip shop, locals grumbled their suspicions about the station, but whenever anybody tried to investigate, key documents would conveniently disappear and professional water testing teams would find their equipment sabotaged overnight. Alex and Zoe hoped that Mayor Parch wouldn't notice two kids with a chemistry set. If they could prove the station was to blame, Alex was sure the town would rise up and fight to get it shut down. "What the heck?" said Zoe, snatching his attention. The water inside the test tubes had turned a series of bright colours: orange, purple, and a particularly sickly green. "All of those are normal. This is the only one I don't understand." Zoe picked up the last tube in the row. The water inside had turned sludgy and grey like blended mussels. "There's a substance in the water I don't recognise." "Could that be why it's so filthy?" asked Alex. "There can't be anything living out there by now. Nobody can even go swimming anymore." "At least that means they can't get eaten by sharks," said Zoe. "We don't have sharks here," replied Alex. Over the years he had researched every sea creature in the world capable of killing him. He figured there was no harm in being prepared. "And I've already told you, they hardly ever attack people." "That's what the sharks want you to think," Zoe countered. "People go out there all the time, right? So it must be safe. And then, snap, they get chomped the heck in half." Alex shuddered. There are way more dangerous things living in the ocean. "Like the water dragon." Like most old seaside towns, Haven Bay was rife with stories and legends handed down over centuries. Alex knew all about them from the books his family sold in their souvenir shop, and every single local legend was tied to a mythical sea monster called the Water Dragon that had supposedly created the bay. The story went that hundreds of years ago, the people who lived along this shore forged a connection with a dragon that ruled over the waves. It gave them powers, allowing them to breathe underwater, live unnaturally long lives, and communicate with the sea creatures they lived alongside. All of that changed when the people betrayed the water dragon. In its fury, the dragon took an enormous bite out of the coast, destroying their civilization and forming the bay. It would be a century before the dragon returned to Haven Bay. Alex had always loved the stories, but now he was older, he suspected they had been invented by bored fishermen, and their hazy details exaggerated as they were handed down through the generations. "There's no such thing as sea monsters," he said firmly, which was exactly when they heard a terrible gargle and turned to find a monster with an octopus for a head staggering along the beach towards them. Chapter 2. No such thing as sea monsters. Before Alex could move, Zoe had snatched up her shoes to wield as weapons. "Sea monster!" she bellowed.